guys, so this is our first lecture video. This one will be a little unique because these blogs and introduction unit are so short. I'm going to do it all in one video. Then when you're in class, you can pause when we're done with whatever that day's is going to be. So there are um, there's 5 sections in the intro unit, but there are going to be 3 different days you listen to lectures. The first day will be 1.1 and 1.2. The second day will be 1.3, and the third day will be 1.4 to 1.5. So we're just going to go ahead and get started. We'll do 1.1. 1.1 really just walks you through the blog. So I say, hi, on this blog, you're going to find information that we're going to use in class. Um, I'm just showing you the structure. So we're going to use things like YouTube videos off the internet. As you can see, this is just one. This is really kind of a cool one on plastic bags and what kind of issue they are and where they go, what happens to them. So that's something cool for you to watch. If you guys want to go in and watch that during your lecture time for today, I would very much encourage that because it's super cool. I won't play it totally through here, but you can see it and it's playing there. So I'm also going to use graphics in the class. This one's a pretty cool one on world carbon dioxide emissions. It's from 2006, so it's an older graph, but we'll use different ones for this year when we get to them. And you can see the fossil fuel consumption, at least in 2006. Basically, big chunks for countries belong to the U.S. and China. We'll talk more about why that is later. And then finally, websites we're going to use. Those will be in blue links within here. You'll just click those. They'll take you to that website. This one takes you to the U.S. EPA. As you can see, it just opens up in a new window, and now we're on the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. Whatever is on here is going to be relevant to the class. I wrote this blog totally based off of the AICE syllabus, so it is exactly going along with exactly what you're supposed to learn on the AICE syllabus. All right, so let's move on to section 1.2. So to get there, we just click up here, go to 1.2. All right, so what is environmental management? Why do we care about it, and what will we be learning about in this course? In our Cambridge syllabus, it states that environmental management is concerned with both local and global issues with the various ways in which societies, governments, and economic activity use, misuse, and attempt to manage both local and global environments. So that's a mouthful. But basically what that is that it's how the different parts of the environment affect us and how we attempt to manage them for our betterment, and how to come up with solutions to fix those things that we may have made worse or affect us negatively. One thing I like to say is that, people generally say, let's go out and save the Earth. Well, the Earth, if you think about what the Earth is, the Earth's a planet. It was formed out of the Big Bang, combined together as a giant rock that all this stuff just happened on, right? The Earth is fine. The Earth is going to be fine with or without us. Because the Earth is a rock. The thing that happens, though, is that all these things work together. The lithosphere, the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, all work together to make this biosphere that we live in. And so there could be a point, and there are points where the Earth has become so changed that it becomes hard for us to be able to survive. So our job with environmental management and environmental science is to study those aspects, and make sure we're doing the right things to ensure our survival on Earth. It's not so much about saving the Earth, it's about saving us. It's more selfish than just save the Earth. We're trying to save humanity, and when it comes down to it. So there are many negative aspects to the environment, what we've done to it, because we've done a lot of things to hurt it, like I say on here, but we've have done good things as well. And the more aware we are of the environment, the more we'll be able to protect it for our future and the future of those who will be here after we're gone. In the future is the hope of environmentalists and environmental scientists alike that we will not be looking at the terrible things we've done, but the great things we did to restore and protect our awesome planet. There's been a lot of great success stories that we're going to talk about in here as well. We talk a lot about negative stuff. All right, we're going to talk about the problems that we've done. And when you think of the environment, maybe one of the things you thought of when you wrote your blog post was, oh man, when I think of the environment, I think of pollution, or I think of climate change, or I think of all these things that are negative. And yes, those exist, but solutions to problems like fixing the ozone layer and mitigating CO2 emissions, things like we've done, are success stories. The Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act, there are success stories. So there are ways that we have improved the environment, which is proof that we can change things as long as we do it in enough time. So that's section 1.2. We're going to move on to 1.3 now. So that's the end of day 1. Okay, so you can go ahead and pause now if you're watching. And we're going to move straight on into day 2, which is going to be, now we're in section 1.3, which is sustainability. Right. So sustainability, one key term that is going to pop up again and again and again in this class is sustainability. You need to know what this is. It's fundamental to the goals of the environment and environmental management. Sustainability is when you use a resource from the environment such that it can be replenished or put back in at the same rate that you use it. Let's use money as an example. So we're not going to talk really about economic sustainability, although we could with the environment, but we're not going to. We're going to talk more about using resources like wood or different water, different resources like that. But let's talk about in terms of money. Let's say your allowance, or maybe at your job, you make, hopefully you don't make just $15 a week. Well, let's just say you've got $15 a week and you only spend $10 a week. You are managing your money sustainably. Why? Because you have kept the money in. You haven't depleted all the money you've had. However, if you spent all $15 and decide you need gas for your car before your next allowance comes in, you'd have to dust off your bike because there'd be no money to pay for the gas. You didn't sustain the amount of money that you need. Therefore, you're being unsustainable. Now, in the environment, humans, especially since the Industrial Revolution, have been using many resources unsustainably. For instance, the fossil fuels we use to power our cars and homes are non-renewable. This means when we use them, it takes millions of years to replenish them. So fossil fuels, they come from dead animals, right? So, but they're ancient, and it takes a long time for a fossil to get condensed enough to turn it into the fossil fuel like coal or oil. It takes millions of years. So if we keep using them at the rate we are, the fossil fuels, sometime in the future, because it takes so long to make them, 50 years, 100 years, 500 years, it depends on the type of fossil fuel. We'll talk about that later. If we keep using them at the rate we are, we're not going to have any left anymore. So we're not using them sustainably. Unlike the allowance, however, we won't be able to wait till there's more available. We must use management of the environment to find solutions before it's too late. I think we're on the way to doing that, hopefully. It's not all about the environment, however. Sustainability takes into account economics and societal impacts as well. We cannot merely just switch to not using our resources. Societal and economic segments may crash. See, environment and economics go together. If we don't sustainably use our environment and our resources, that economic sector will crash because there's not going to be any more resource to use. Just imagine if we cut down all the trees at once without letting them grow back, what would happen to the lumber industry, right? Let alone the carbon that trees take in. So all of that needs to work together in a cohesive way so that all three are strengthened by each other. I want to make sure you guys watch this video. This video is a super good explanation of sustainability. So again, you go ahead and watch that in class. You can go straight to the blog and watch that after you're done watching my lecture here. That's a great video. Make sure you watch it. All right. And finally, right here, here's one idea of how to make energy sustainable. Basically, it's about recycling waste. So this is actually really, really cool. What you've got here is you've got a community managed sustainable city, and you've got all these different arrows that take waste from different processes and actually use it instead of just throwing it away or taking it to the landfill. It can be used in other places. For instance, you've got fresh water that goes to the households. All right. That could come from a desalination plant, which can come from the ocean. Also, you've got tidal energy, which can be used to power the industry. Industry can make CO2. The CO2 could then be actually used to help grow plants instead of just put into the air. Then in agriculture, you make a lot of animal waste, which can create a lot of problems unless you take that animal waste and you actually turn it back into manure, or you even use that waste or biofuel to heat households. All right. You can also make biofuel to run cars and to power industry. And so it's really a cycle. Can you use waste from different processes? Can you use waste heat from industrial processes to run other industrial processes? What can you do in order to make everything sustainable? And that's called sustainable development. And there's actually you could go into college and work in that in cities all around the United States. My niece even does that. That's her job. She's in sustainable urban management. So she's developing and planning urban cities from a sustainable point of view. So that's really awesome. So that's basically what sustainability is. Don't forget, the main point of sustainability is using things and resources at a rate at which they are not that they're replenished so that they can come back. All right, cool. Let's move on to the next part of the intro unit, 1.4, the four spheres. So to get the best understanding of environmental management possible, we've broken up how the Earth works into four spheres. I know I've gone over this a couple times, but if you look at your Cambridge syllabus, this is the basic setup for the course and the exam. So the spheres are, and this is the order we'll study them, the lithosphere, which is the ground, sometimes referred to as Earth. All right, not Earth with a capital E, but just Earth. The ground is Earth. People are like, oh, let's go dig up the Earth, right? Technically, this is the upper mantle of the rock and crust that forms the tectonic plates on which the continents lie. In this unit, we'll study the structure of the Earth, natural hazards like tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes, stuff like that, soil formation, erosion, human impacts on all of these, and solutions to the problems associated with them, and much more. The hydrosphere is water. The bodies of water present as ice, liquid water, and even water vapor. In this unit, we're going to study how water is stored and transferred, the human impacts on water, like pollution, and how to sustainably provide water to people all over the world, and how to manage pollution of water and more. The atmosphere is the air, all the gaseous shell that is around our lithosphere, right? And hydrosphere. In this unit, we're going to study the structure and characteristics of the atmosphere, patterns of air movement, climate and weather, human impacts, management, and effects of air pollution, and more. Biosphere is the last part, and that's basically how all of them come together. The living organisms that occupy the Earth and use the other three spheres to sustain themselves. In this unit, we're going to study ecosystems, human impacts on the ecosystems, preservation and conservation, worldwide efforts to support ecosystems, population impact on the ecosystems, and more. Together, these spheres are why our world works and why we can live in it. Each has an impact on the others and cannot survive alone. All right. Last section in the intro unit is going to be MEDC versus LEDC, which is a big thing. All right, MEDC and LEDC. You're going to see these acronyms a lot in this course. We're going to be looking at a lot of what are called case studies, where we look at different cases. And usually these are broken up into MEDCs and LEDCs because they have different, the environmental effects have different effects on these places. So what are they? MEDC is a more economically developed country, and an LEDC is a less economically developed country. So an MEDC example would be us, the USA, most European countries. LEDC would be Cambodia, Haiti, lots of places that don't have as much of an economic development as places like the United States. Now, while each country's population is different, we can classify all of them into those two categories depending on how far along they are in something called the demographic transition, which you can we're going to discuss that a lot more in quarter 4 in the biosphere unit. and what the demographic transition is. What's important for you at this point is to note that people in MEDCs are generally more affluent and have what economists deem a better quality of life than people in LEDCs. And anytime you see something like this, like if you don't know what affluent is, please click that link. It just means people are generally wealthier in MEDCs and have a higher quality of life as determined economically. Here's a general map you can see of MEDCs and LEDCs. You can basically see a distinct line where the shift happens, except for Australia. But you can definitely see the general shape of the MEDCs and LEDCs. Here is a list of some countries that belong to each. You need to memorize a few of them to be able to reference in the future if that ever comes up. That could come up on an essay question or even a short answer question on an AICE exam. So just memorize some of these MEDCs like Australia, UK, USA, Switzerland, Canada, France, New Zealand, Belgium, Germany, Ireland, Japan, Korea. LEDCs are places like Bangladesh, Mali, Sudan, Peru, Fiji, Cambodia, Nigeria, Egypt, and Zimbabwe. The two groups use resources differently for reasons we learn and thus have different impacts on the environment. You will see these acronyms discussed in every sphere, so it's important that you understand the basic difference before we even begin. One more thing, a country that comes up a lot is China, and people can classify China in both categories, MEDC and LEDC. The rural areas, love that word, rural, right? The rural areas of China can be classified as LEDC. Some of them are pretty developed, but some of them are super rough when it comes to their economic development. So a lot of China, most of China is rural because it's so big. A lot of China is an LEDC, but a lot of the big cities are almost as MEDC as you could get. They're so developed. So China is this weird anomaly, but we will be talking a lot about China in there as well. So that's it for the introduction section. You've gotten 5 sections worth. They were the shortest sections. They will get longer, I promise. And each section from now on day should be its own YouTube video, but I thought, and we're only at like 17 minutes with this one. So that's it. Hope this helped. And I guess that's it.